Caroline awoke with a start, her eyes rapidly adjusting to the dark room. She'd left the curtains open when she'd gone to bed, and through the window opposite she could see heavy clouds blocking the starlight, its edges glowing eerily silver in front of the winter moon, not strong enough to penetrate the window in the high-ceilinged bedroom. She strained her ears. What had woken her? A sound outside or something inside the house? Groggy from waking suddenly, Caroline felt disorientated, had no idea what time it was. She'd been so exhausted she'd come to bed early, had crashed into a deep sleep. But now her heart was pounding in her ears as she shifted slightly in the bed, scanning the room, peering into the dark corners. Beyond the distant ghostly glow of the moon, the night was black. Outside, she could hear the trees in the woods whispering, the stiff wind that was sending the clouds across the sky, agitating them. She'd been completely at home here in the daylight, but as she leaned forward to look out of the side window cut into the sloping ceiling, she could almost feel the trees watching her, the sound of their movement echoed by the roll of the waves, crashing on the shore below the boathouse and the beating of her heart. Perhaps she'd been having a bad dream. She couldn't remember, just felt the panic and cold sweat, the shock of suddenly awakening. Another sound, a movement soft and measured. Stiffening, she turned over slowly and as quietly as she could and peered towards the top of the spiral staircase. She was sure she'd left the lamp on downstairs, but there was no sign of its soft light now. Perhaps she turned it off. She wasn't sure. Jet lag played havoc with her memory. Listening hard, she focused on the sounds of the building, the creak of the wooden frame as the wind picked up, teasing the eaves, moaning gently. Suddenly, fully awake, she lay back, rigid, starting at another sound, soft, like a magazine being moved. She pulled the duvet to her chin. Was there someone or something downstairs? What on earth could it be? Nobody had mentioned the boathouse being haunted, but after talking to Imogen, she was starting to believe the rumours about the main house. She'd locked the front door when she came up. She was sure of it, hadn't she? In this part of the world, people still left their front doors open. They always had when she'd holidayed here as a child, but she was conditioned now to lock up. She'd spent too long in New York. Wouldn't she have heard if someone had broken in? A window smashing or something? How else could someone have got in? She was sure they had duplicate keys in reception, but why would anyone in the hotel want to come in the middle of the night? She reached for her phone. It was only 10 o'clock. Not late, but definitely not time for the cleaning staff to be dropping by. Sliding her phone back on her bedside, Caroline shifted again, trying to listen to the movement downstairs. There were days when she wished she had a regular office job, that she hadn't reported on almost 300 cases of burglary with and without menace. Another sound. Something being moved. It couldn't be a ghost. She pulled the duvet up closer to her chin. It really couldn't. Maybe this house was on some sort of energy line or something, and the time zones kept slipping. Was that even possible? Perhaps her teenage theory was about to be proven. Caroline tried to listen harder, but all she could hear was her own heartbeat. Perhaps a cat had got in. Or maybe it was mice. Should she get up and go and see? The external phone was in the kitchen, and her mobile had no reception. Calling for help was only an option if she could get downstairs. But who was she going to call? Ghostbusters? Before she could finish thinking, she heard a gentle click and felt a blast of icy wind whistle up the stairs. A loud clatter almost lifted her out of the bed. The front door was banging. Throwing back the duvet, Caroline grabbed the robe from the end of the bed and dragged it around her, and then ran down the spiral stairs, the wooden treads cold on her bare feet. Spinning around the last turn, she almost cried out. The front door was wide open. Caroline crossed the tile floor as fast as she could, her robe swirling around her as she slammed the door closed, her heart hammering in her chest. Turning, she fell back against the door. Holy God. She scanned the living room, looking for a sign of disturbance. Had the door just blown open and the wind caused the noises she'd heard? She finally caught her breath and tried to think rationally. She was in the middle of nowhere. This wasn't the Upper East Side. This was a vacation let. It was hardly going to be filled with her best jewellery or tech equipment. Her eyes darted to the kitchen counter where she'd left her laptop charging. It was still there, sitting in plain view. It must have been the wind. With all the stress of the past few days, she hadn't been sleeping. She must have been so tired when she went to bed that she'd not shut the front door properly. Leaning on the counter, Caroline tried to calm her breathing, fighting for a rational explanation. So that's Caroline in the boathouse, and things are happening.